Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to our first look at F1 Manager 24. Yes, a massive thank you to Frontier for letting me play the game a little bit early last week. I have got a lot of footage that we are going to be getting through over the next few videos. This basically, I had about 2.5 hours to play the game, so we are going to be breaking it down into 3 separate videos for you. Today we are going to be going through everything and all the options for setting up your new custom team. Yes, my team has finally made it into the F1 Manager games. Then I've got a video going live on Friday where we dive into our very first race. That one is going to be over an hour long, so I would certainly recommend sticking around for that. And then one final video as well next week where we are going to be doing a Max Verstappen Red Bull challenge as well that was set up by the team. Now, of course, quickly before we get into this, this isn't the final version of the game. We are still waiting for a few little feature changes and things like that. So if you kind of see any bugs and things like that, I will talk through a couple of them over the course of these videos. But yeah, they are being looked into, they are being patched. At the end of our session, obviously we were kind of asked just to say the problems kind of we faced whilst playing the game, and all of them that I had issues with, they were already aware of and already looking at amending, ready for the real release. Now, speaking of the real release, I don't know if we've got a confirmed release date yet. The impression I'm getting is it's going to be mid to late July, so fingers crossed. Of course, we'll get confirmation of that in the very near future as well. But yes, finally, my team has been added to the F1 Manager games. So immediately when you head in, this is going to be the screen you are greeted with. Of course, you've got the option to select your team name, and then you've got these 6 origin stories as well. Now, these will allow you to decide who is going to be your engine provider, and also kind of give you a little bit of a backstory as well as you make your way into the sport. So you can see Origin 1 is just, you know, a pretty basic, generic, live the definitive Formula 1 fantasy and create your own team, then lead them to victory as their team principal. Now, I absolutely think that this year, you know, having this is going to certainly make the game, you know, give it a lot more replayability for a lot of people. And obviously hopefully make it more enjoyable as well, because, you know, with obviously my team being on the F1 games for many years now, it was kind of getting to the point where we were like, F1 Manager desperately needs this mode. Now, I was actually in a call with Alex Gillen at the time, hence the team name. 212 Motorsport, I'm sure, will be returning in F1 Manager 24. So taking a look then at the other origin stories, we've got Hungry Newcomer. Victorine Schultz is a maverick entrepreneur disrupting industries around the world. They have now turned their attention to Formula 1, and just like in the business, they intend to win at all costs. Schultz chose you personally to take them to the top, but the owner's fame won't buy success. Even fighting for points will be a challenge at first, so be prepared for an uphill battle. So you can see, obviously, you get a starting balance as well with each of these storylines, and of course, like I said, a powertrain provider. So, you know, $20 million to start a Formula 1 team is basically nothing in the grand scheme of things nowadays. So it is very, very interesting. You know, you will be able to try and add those elements into the game. I do believe you can edit them as well, or you can certainly edit option 1, which is the one that we picked. As we take a look then over onto option number 3, Technical Breakthrough. Fling Point are a small engineering outfit, but their technical expertise is mighty. They're about to step onto the world stage, having created an incredible car through their innovative technology, but with a limited budget and no reputation, it's down to you to answer the age-old question: is technical brilliance enough to snatch victory from the titans of Formula 1? So once again, back with Ferrari, $10 million to try and make that team work. But you can see they've already got a 5-star quality car and a 5-star staff. So these are all, you know, the other little things that you're going to have to factor in when you are picking your My Team starting origin. Phoenix Rising was a dominant force in other categories of motorsport, but disappeared from the public eye a few years ago. Now they're back and intend to claim the ultimate prize of victory in Formula 1. They have access to a well-developed AQ, but despite their impressive legacy, are struggling to get to grips with F1's technical regulations. The board trusts you to solve these challenges and rise them up from the ashes to motorsport fame once again. So seemingly all of these so far, you're either given a Renault or a Ferrari power unit. I was always debating, because I think there's going to be a lot of options inside F1 Manager 24. Could you do like an old school Honda style team or something like that? Could you create like I'd love to do like a revamped Super Aguri or something silly like that at some point down the line as well. Of course, if we're still having a lot of fun with the game, which I think with the new features, certainly there's going to be a lot more longevity in it. Of course, I didn't really play a lot of F1 Manager 23. I've kind of got back into it a little bit over the last couple of months, but F1 Manager 24 I do intend on playing quite a lot of as well. And I'm streaming F1 Manager 23 on Twitch from time to time as well there. So yeah, we're going to try and get back in with this game. I know it's, there's quite a small group of people that are sort of very, very dedicated and love this game as well. So I kind of want to get back onto it in F1 Manager 24 as well there. Now, can we just skip forward? Oh, and see if we've got a look at the next option. Here we go. Industry giant Meteor Materials is a conglomerate of several huge resource companies, previously partnering with multiple teams within other motorsports. Now they're taking center stage with a plan to cement themselves as a true industry titan. They have money, contracts and infrastructure, but they expect you to lead them to a spectacular debut in Formula 1 and a fitting meteoric rise to the top. So this one, I think this is probably one of the better ones you're going to get. Obviously, $50 million budget, and everything with the exception of facilities is at least 4 or 5 stars, so that's pretty impressive as well there. And taking a look at the final option, number 6 then, what is that going to be? Oh, I've gone a bit too far forward. Here we go. I'll see if I can try and click on it at the right time. Automotive Legacy. Cicada is a name synonymous with luxury and power in the automotive world, but they intend to be synonymous with dominance in Formula 1 as well. The board has selected you as the person to spearhead their entry into sport, and they expect solid midfield results initially, but this ambitious brand has speed in its DNA, and they want to show the world, what their cars can truly do. So yeah, this one finally. We get a Honda Red Bull powertrains car there, and you can see everything is pretty middle of the road with them. So that would probably be like a decent midfield team that you can really just dive into the game with as well, which is very, very cool. We were told just go with option 1 because it gives you, like I said, free allocation to kind of decide just how good your team is. So unless you kind of really want to go down one of those storylines, that is probably going to be the best way to go. It kind of means obviously you can start towards the front if you don't want to play the game for too many seasons. You can start towards the back if you intend on grinding it out, like I certainly do as well. And unfortunately, Better Than Gillen Motorsports wasn't going to stick around for very long. We've got to go with the OG, haven't we? With 2-2 Motorsports. Yes, it will be coming to F1 Manager 24, so very, very excited for that as well. And as you head into the My Team setup, then you can see that you get the options of, I think, 10, 20, 30, 40 or $50 million as your starting kind of balance. And then you can see as well, you get to decide your facilities and your car performance as well there. So again, it kind of is, we kind of said to them, to Frontier, that, you needed the game to kind of be more accessible for those of you, that haven't played before, but you also want to be able to give people a difficult challenge as well, if that's what they like. So what you can also do within the facilities then is you can actually remove, say, an upgrade on your parts test center and, say, add it to the suspension simulator. So if you kind of want to have one really strong area of expertise within the game, that is what you can do. So I think, as you can see, most of them have got 2 levels of upgrades. The CFD simulator, though, we have only got 1. Then you've got some of the other options like the scouting department, the team hub, and the race simulator with a very similar sort of vibe. And then the final one, I believe, was the operations facilities as well there. So you can see we haven't really got much in the way of facilities in that regard. And then we head over to the team kind of builder, if you will, of who is going to be a part of your team ready to start your career mode. So you can randomize this. You can poach any drivers you like. So, for example, some of you might just go with 2 Formula 2 drivers. Some of you might sort of want, a Valtteri Bottas, say, as an experienced number 1 who can kind of guide the team, and then kind of like a junior driver. Or you could try and watch the world burn to the ground and put Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton in your team as well there. And it also gives you the option of some staff members as well. But there's a fantastic little feature called Randomize. So if you don't really know what you're looking for, or you got no idea, or just fancy a bit of a shake-up, you can actually randomize who is going to be on your team as well. And there's also the option for generated drivers and staff, which we will see more and more throughout the game as well. So it's a pretty cool little feature. I think I tried it a couple of times just to kind of see what it would come up with. And you can see there we ended up with Alonso and Kevin Magnussen. So I'm sure there would likely end up being some beef between those two if they end up in a battle on the road. But you also get the option, like I said, to basically pick any driver you like. I don't think... Obviously, they do have a salary, how much they earn, but I don't think you're limited by budget particularly going into the game. But I don't know if there's some drivers that would sort of be apprehensive of joining your team. So I think we ended up picking Alex Albon just because he was cheap-ish, but a very, very well-rated driver. Actually, Oscar Piastri is probably slightly better value for money as well there. And we kept Pierre Gasly in the #1 car. So we're kind of like a Red Bull rejects. If you got kicked out of Red Bull a few years ago, you're coming to 212 Motorsports apparently in this mod as well there. And of course, trying to factor in, you know, other drivers and team principals, personnel, that kind of thing, is going to be really, really important, of course. You can see you don't get many options for a couple of the other things as well. So that's what we've ended up with. James Allison, Jared Murphy, Diego Ioverno, and Chris Cronin, as well as Pierre Hamelin as well there. So obviously we've got our engineers, and obviously we've got our other key technical staff as well. And of course the good thing is with this team selection option that you can obviously pick any of the power unit providers there, so you've got all their different stats as well, which are going to be very, very important as you head into your first season. I will likely go with Renault, just because with these kind of things I like to make them quite immersive, and I feel like Renault is probably the likely place that you're going to be able to start if you make your way into Formula 1 nowadays. Now, we head into the car livery designer, which I'm kind of just going to let this play out in the background, because for any of you that have watched much content of mine before, you will know I am an absolutely terrible livery designer. So I'm sure early on our F1 manager liveries are going to absolutely suck. I think in the end, with this option, I just make the car fully orange. But you get a lot of different options. It is actually very, very customizable, which I was staggered by that the FOM have let them do this. So I wonder if down the line there's going to be a bit more pressure on the EA Cody's Formula 1 game as to whether they are going to be able to do a little bit more with it as well. Because, yeah, this game really did give you actually a lot of options. You know, you can add decals, you can add a lot of other various bits and pieces, which, if you are someone that is much better at designing liveries in games, or, you know, likes to do that kind of thing, you're going to have a field day with this. It's probably, just generally speaking, a pretty good Formula 1 livery designer. You know, it's not quite Photoshop, but they kind of said, you know, it was inspired by Photoshop with the ability to add layers and that kind of thing. And yeah, I'm very, very excited to sort of see what you guys are going to be able to come up with as well there. But as you can see, that is my orange livery as we move into this, because, as I said, I cannot really design liveries to save my life. So that is what we're going to do as well there. I found that the UI worked for the most part, but it was a little bit confusing when it came to saving liveries. So I kind of forwarded that on to Frontier as well. And, you know, you could apply and save a livery and then overwrite a slot, but then it was a little bit weird the fact you had to come all the way back out again before you could go any further. And you can see as well, you get to design your driver suits and your logo. Now, your logo, I think you get 24 layers, but it can pretty much be anything you want. So I'm probably going to have to sit down when the game comes out and really try and make like the 212 logo look pretty damn solid there. You can see in the background. We're going to try and do as best as I can, but anyone that's potentially got OCT or anything like that, he's probably going to get very, very annoyed by the fact that I don't believe I keep the shot central at the end of this as well. But yeah, obviously you get the option, you know, to copy paste that kind of thing, and say, especially on PC, you know, with a mouse and keyboard, this is going to be very, very good to customize as well. The one thing I did find odd was the fact the up and down arrows are the wrong way around. That was a little bit strange, but I guess it's one of those things you can get used to as well in the future. And I believe it does also give the option of like Prema. I swear that was the background logo for Prema back in the day as well. So, you know, perhaps if you wanted to put Prema into Formula 1, then you can do that. You know, I really think this especially is going to give people the option to do whatever they really want with it as well there, which is very, very cool. As you can see, once again, I just get a little bit tricked by the weird up and down options inside this. But like I said, you know, you can duplicate things, you can copy paste stuff as well. And, you know, if you want, say, you know, 212, you got 2 2s in that number as well, 2 2s and 1 1. So obviously you can just copy paste that over, so you get exactly the same assets as well there, which is obviously fantastic. And you know, it does feel like they've immediately kind of come straight out of the gate with a system that works pretty damn well for, you know, creating your own logos and that kind of thing as well. So I think that's really, really cool. But of course, I didn't want to spend too much time doing this either. You know me, as I said, I'm not a graphic designer, so we are kind of just going to move straight past that and kind of head towards the team setup as well there. And again, it was a little bit odd, the fact you could kind of apply, but then you had to go back out of the settings rather than kind of heading forward. And you can see now as well, of course, you get to just, you know, you get to put your name in the game, as you would expect, but also you get to decide whether you're an experienced manager or a new arrival. So if you're looking at F1 Manager 24, but you've never played the previous games, you get the option, obviously, to set yourself up as a first-time manager, and it kind of just guides you through. You can disable it whenever you like, but it does give you the option there as well. You also get a few more difficulty levels as well now inside the game. So obviously you get easy, medium, or hard, sorry, easy, standard, or hard difficulty, which basically just means now the AI are going to be a lot more reactive to what you're doing inside a race. So say, for example, you're planning on overtaking Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen now might be told to go into the overtake mode to defend from you if you're on the hard mode. They're going to push a lot more on strategy. They're going to take a lot more risk, you know, but sort of more calculated risks as well. So that is going to be very, very good. Obviously, if you are a more experienced player and you really like to try and get into the meat of the game, that is going to be critical as well, because obviously it will add a bit more longevity once again. And car development as well, obviously you can decide just how quickly you or the AI are going to be able to develop their cars, you know, to kind of make it more competitive. You know, say if you set it at hard difficulty, you're going to have to make a lot of the right decisions as you head into the game as well there. So obviously you just get a little bit of confirmation as to everything that you have decided as well there. So we should be able to head into the game and take a look, obviously, around kind of like the main manager screen as well. And you can see it's pretty similar to F1 Manager 23. I feel like this was probably one of the stronger points of last year's game, and we kind of said, you know, the UI and that kind of thing was pretty good. So it was kind of like, you know, focus on, you know, adding some more longevity features to the game, allowing it to obviously, you know, stay popular for a lot longer as well. And of course, you will notice one big change though is the mentality hub. So that is really, really important as well on this year's games. So drivers, personnel, they're going to basically decide whether they're confident in you or not, and that will affect how they perform within your team. So we will go take a look at that in just a moment as well there. But you see, you get a little smiley face next to their profile to kind of give you like a rough idea of how they're looking. So you see both Albon and Pierre Gasly pretty happy with where we're at the moment there, and you can see overall most of the team seems pretty happy. You've either got mostly positive, neutral, or negative. So you can see Diego Laverno there from Ferrari has kind of come to 2&2 Motorsport and gone, what do you mean you got a budget of $40 million? I come from Ferrari. We have a budget of $6 trillion if I wanted it. So you can see, you know, that does add a little extra element there. It's also telling us we need to try and finish 3rd or above in our first season, which when we've got the 11th and 13th best car performance. And actually, no, I think that's where they stood in the Drivers' Championship last year. I believe we actually ended up with 13th and 14th best car performance. That's quite optimistic. So, and obviously, yeah, the long-term goal, of course, is always try and become the Constructors' Champion as well there. So, yeah, the game is quite optimistic in that regard. At least I found when I set this up. Maybe it'll change around for you guys, but of course, when you want the board to have some confidence in you, then it is really, really critical as well there. So here we go then, take a look at the overall mentality. You can see, so he's got 4 options, does Pierre. He's obviously got his overall, his personal situation, his team performance, and his team principle. So obviously, you know, personal situation is how comfortable he feels. You know, are the team making the right choices to help him? Is he happy with the direction the team is taking the car and that kind of thing. Team performance, obviously, we haven't done a race yet, so he's stuck at neutral, and that's kind of just like a vanity score. How good does he think I am at my job as well? So we'll obviously be trying to keep him happy, and you also get the option of the biggest issues as well. So it allows, obviously, everyone, every personnel, every member of staff in the team to kind of explain to you what they think is the biggest problem within the factory as well at the moment. Obviously, it just provides you with a little bit more guidance as to, you know, where you need to be focusing your upgrades at the moment as well. And of course, as we see with every year, you know, you get all their stats, you get their contract, and things like that. So of course, you can have a look back through. I do also, always makes me laugh, the fact that Pierre Gasly now apparently drove for V-Carb as well there. So yeah, you can see, let's take a look. We've obviously got our affiliate drivers, so that's going to be a new big thing as well inside F1 Manager 24 is, you know, say for example, you've got a Fernando Alonso who is likely going to be hanging up the gloves in the very near future. You can now have an affiliate driver from Formula 2, Formula 3, or obviously even one of the AI-generated characters that obviously you can kind of train up and get ready for Formula 1 as well there. So you can see we've got Mika Thordarson and Christina Holloway. They're both pretty terrible. He's in his late 20s, so I think giving up on a Formula 1 career is probably the right move to make. But apparently he doesn't want to give up just yet and believes he's got a shot in the future as well there. And I think, you know, the worse they are, probably the more likely they are to kind of just like try and kiss you behind, because obviously they desperately want to try and stay on to hopefully have a chance in the future. But of course, as always, you know, you'll be able to get these guys running in free practice 1 if you want to, obviously try and gain them a bit more experience as well. And of course, you know, it does mean obviously if you've got, you know, a junior driver, you know, like an Ollie Behrman this year, you can send them out for a load of free practice sessions, basically get them up to speed if you want them in the car ready for next season. So I think hopefully we're going to go and scout out some new drivers as well in the future. Obviously take a look up and down the roster here, of course, as well. But taking a look, obviously you've got your email inbox. You know, there is some big tweaks and changes, but of course there is also a lot of stuff that you guys will recognise as well. So your calendar, obviously all your information about every Grand Prix over the course of the year. So, you know, you've got your historic chance for safety car. You've got your data as to how likely it is to rain, your pit time, you know, how much time you're going to lose making a pit stop, all that good stuff as well. So it is quite cool to sort of see all of that information as well there. So it's decent, you know, it gives you kind of that basic idea of everything you need to be looking for as you make your way through the game. And of course, as you would expect, you've got all of the 2024 tracks, and it also marks out which races are a sprint weekend. So I don't quite know what format sprint weekends are going to be. This has obviously been the fun thing with the games, is that it seems like Formula 1 changed the sprint race format and the game can't keep up between F1 Manager and F1 24 as well. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. I don't know what format they follow. I'm hoping, to be honest, it's the kind of Friday qualifying, sprint race Saturday, race Sunday, because if it's two qualifyings and a sprint and a race, then it does make things a little bit difficult. But maybe down the line we'll have the opportunity to vote as well to scrap sprint races inside this game, although I feel like the FOM probably don't like that, because of course they love sprint races more than they love any of our sanity. Now, heading obviously into the design and development options, these were pretty good in previous games, and from my untrained eye, haven't really been tweaked, so I don't really feel they needed to. I feel like they'll add you know, enough longevity to the game as well. Of course, you get your CFD and your wind tunnel, and obviously I tend to just go for huge upgrades, you know, because otherwise I'm worried I'm not going to use all the time, so that's exactly what we'll do. But you can't actually use all of your engineers on an upgrade this year, so it's probably going to have to be like 2 half upgrades that I go with, so we can actually try and utilise all of our engineers as well, because otherwise they're just sat around not doing a lot as well inside the game. Now, it also appears that this year as well, the cost cap is a lot more important. So you're going to be balancing it between the cost cap, obviously, and the total cash on hand that you've got at the moment. But yeah, this year's game, it actually is based a lot more kind of, you know, I wonder if you're going to get heavily penalised or whether it's just simply impossible to go over the cost cap by the end of the year. But yeah, that's going to be one thing to really factor in as well. Yeah, we'll use up all of our time there, but unfortunately not all of our engineers, so now I've just got 4 of them sat around for the next 2 weeks, not doing a lot as well, but I should be able to get a new suspension design up ready for the second round out in Jeddah. So taking a look then obviously at the total car performance at the moment, we're going to try and manufacture a few other bits and pieces as well, just double checking that I've got enough front wings and things like that, because, well, I might not be in the car, but I still find a way somehow to make all of my other drivers bottle it in any race I ever do. Now, taking a look then at the other facilities, of course, this was the thing that everyone inside the team was moaning at me at, that desperately needed fixing. So obviously you got the options that we had last year, your factory design center, your wind tunnel, your CFD, your suspension, and your car part test center. So they all add different aspects to the game. They all give you different strengths and things like that. So, for example, I believe it's the helicopter pad and the weather report station obviously give you better accuracy as to when it's going to rain during a GP as well. So they all add different little bits and pieces, which I think is very cool. And of course you can see that with your wind tunnel you gain a little bit of everything, to be honest, in terms of aerodynamics and drag. So that's probably going to be quite an important upgrade to do nice and early on. And of course it will kind of be based on your career mode, what you need to update, what needs changing, where your strengths and weaknesses lie as you head into the game. But of course that will take time to work out as well. There probably will be a bit of trial and error for you as you dive into the game as well then. But I must admit, all these little graphic refreshes as well in the background just add to the game. So we actually start out without a team hub, so we're going to have to add that in to the game as well. And as you can see, obviously you've got all the other options as well. So we're going to just try and build everything we can, spend a load of money on making sure that is all set up. So we've already burnt through about a third of our budget as well there, and of course, yes, spending lots of money on upgrades to hopefully make sure that the personnel, the drivers, everyone is happy with the car and the team, of course, as we head into this first weekend of the season then. But yeah, taking a look kind of further around, of course, you have got these other things. So the projected balance, like I said, is one of the big ones there. So we might just spend a little bit more money on upgrading the factory. As you can see, we're now down to just $16 million. But when we take a look then at our finances, you can see we've got $16 million in the bank. We also get the update of obviously how much is coming in, how much is going to be going out, and also the projected end of season balance. So at the moment, we're going to bring in $65 million, but we're also going to spend $123 if things keep going as they are. So that's a problem for us early on. It's going to mean we're a long way into the red by approximately $60 million, which if I was a Premier League team, that's a pretty good job. But a Formula 1 team, especially at the moment, that's not ideal, especially with the cost cap in play. So what we're then going to have to do is try and up the team marketability. So basically that obviously just means how appealing your team is to the sponsors. Marketability affects the quality of engagement activities that the sponsors will offer and the amount of money they'll give to your team as well. So obviously if you win or you do really well, obviously more companies are going to want to put their stickers on your car. So that is obviously going to be really important as well. And you can see obviously we get 13 million currently from the board, but obviously we've only got 93 million left of the cost cap as well. So you are going to have to be careful with your finances over the course of the season there. So I think what we're going to try and do quickly is take a look soon at what else needs to be changed, obviously, to try and get some sponsors. So you can see Diego Ioverno now is pretty neutral about everything. He doesn't like me, though. Don't know what his problem is with me, personally, but he might get the sack soon if he's going to try and spread slander around myself inside the team there. Clearly, yeah, not too happy with this. And obviously, like I said, you get all this extra information as well. That, if you really like to dive into the data, you can have a real kind of nerdy dive as well to try and make sure everything is perfect to your liking as well. And that's something I want to try and do a little bit more on this year's game as well. It's kind of really dive in, really kind of do like a proper sort of long style career mode. A bit like these videos, to be honest, where you really just dive in with everything and make sure everything is working as it should be. So let's see if we can try and skip forward to when we're going to have a look at the sponsors. So you can see, obviously, we get the helipad complete, everything like that. So that's going to hopefully allow, a few more sponsors to be a little bit happier with us. Here we go then. So if we head over to, I believe, once again, it is back onto... Here we go. So as you get close to the Bahrain Grand Prix, you actually get the option of choosing a sponsor. Now, this was one of the only other weird little things I had. If it doesn't load for you, and you've just got the option of it being blocked, you need to go out and back in. It was just a weird little bug that I experienced this time around. But you can see we go back in, and this time around it does work. So you've got the option of 3 early on, of course, and they give you the option of how much money you'll receive as a bonus on race day and how much you'll receive as a bonus if you reach their engagement targets. So basically, engagement is how much time you're obviously dedicating to them. So say, for example, one of your drivers does a promotional video with Musca XA or something, Musca XR Technologies even. So if he goes and says, I like Musca XR's airbags, you should use them in your road car, ignoring the fact Formula 1 cars don't have airbags, then obviously you'll get some engagement points, and obviously then if you achieve that, obviously you'll get a nice hefty $16 million bonus. And then, yeah, the race day targets is pretty simple. It's what we've seen on many games now. Obviously inside F1 Manager is achieve the goals set out. Obviously you can select your own goals as well. Get money. It helps towards the budget, and obviously making sure that I don't bankrupt our team within 6 rounds of the start of the season. So they also have a preference on which kind of activity they like. So some obviously will want drivers to do things, some will want team personnel to do things, and obviously it just adds a little bit of difference into the game. So of course, if you're focusing, say for example you've got a young driver who's coming to the team and they need to just focus on being at the track, getting on laps and things like that, then obviously you might want to pick a facility activity. So they can be doing things down at the test center, and say for example you can be giving out factory tours if you follow Musca XR on X or something like that. It just adds a little bit of extra nuance as well, and you also get the option to add 5 other teams to your selection. However, these also actually affect different stats as well. So in terms of Raka electro energy, I don't quite know. You can see there, it actually affects the driver markability, so you've got to be a bit careful with which ones of these you pick. So you get all kind of, your dodgy stuff, so you get your energy drinks, you get your cryptocurrencies, that kind of thing, and manufacturing apparently, as well as tech. So yeah, you get to pick a few of these as well, which will hopefully obviously give you an added bonus as well into the game. So we're going to pick up Abros, we're going to pick up, I think, Bad Turtle, which is a clothing brand wear, and APTRD. So they obviously help out actually with your pit crew, because of course once again you can do your pit crew options and things like that. So I think, yeah, you can see we get one last option to take a look at the car. That is obviously where you can slap sponsor logos onto the car and things like that, and then obviously you head into the sponsor plan. So you've got a target of 4,500 engagement points, and you can see each one of these adds points to your balance. So obviously you want to be trying to add as many of these as you possibly can, just enough even to make sure that you achieve your goal there. So you can see we've selected 2, a race day appearance and a wind tunnel advert. Once again, obviously you can see that affects the driver performance, but we've reached what we needed to try and keep the sponsors happy as well. I don't know whether, if obviously you massively overachieve that, whether you're going to get more money or sort of, whether they're willing to offer you more in the future. But yeah, we basically did the bare minimum we possibly could to make sure that we achieved their engagement target as well. So it is a cool new little feature as well that I think is going to be important to balance out, of course, because as we all know, sponsors pay the bills in Formula 1, and as a manager, it is those things that you have really got to focus on as well then. But I believe that is us pretty much set up before we head to the Bahrain Grand Prix. We might just have a couple of small little things to look into before we head to the circuit. But honestly, I really do feel now that F1 Manager, F1 Manager 22 was a good baseline, it was good fun. Manager 23 was a decent enough upgrade, but kind of lacked like the major changes that I think we all wanted from the game. F1 Manager 24, I really do feel, has become a lot more fleshed out and fully fledged as well. So I feel like this game is going to give you a lot of extra longevity. I feel as well that it's obviously going to, especially with the My Team option, is going to give people a reason to come back and keep playing it as well. So hopefully you guys have sort of enjoyed this deep dive into F1 Manager 24. Like I said, there is going to be another one coming out on Friday where we're going to dive into the first race with our newly set up team. But I was very, very conscious that this video was already going to be over half an hour long, and that's probably going to be about an hour. We are really, really going to be diving in and showcasing everything to you guys as well. So yeah, please do make sure you get yourself subscribed. We're obviously trying to hit 130,000 subscribers at the moment as well on the channel. But thank you all so much for watching. And yeah, we'll be back Friday, like I said, with our very first race of F1 Manager 24.